If we resolve to do His will, He will supply the graces we need to get it done. This is Mike from Catholic Treehouse. I'd like to welcome you to episode 45 of the Saint in Progress podcast, your source for inspiration, information, and directions for your soul's journey back home to the Father's house. As always, you can find us at catholictreehouse.com or saintinprogress.com or catholictreehouse.substack.com. So this past week has been a great week in terms of feasts and saint days and all that. We had the Feast of the Archangels on September 29th, which was this past Monday. Our parish, St. Michael's, so since our patron saint, it's elevated to a solemnity. So we had Mass and we had a hog roast, and it was just pretty awesome. We also had St. Teresa of Lisieux on October 1st. And for those of you that didn't catch episode 25 of this show, I talked about being stalked by St. Teresa of Lisieux. So I recommend you go listen to that one. There was a payoff to that, being stalked by a saint. I haven't recorded that podcast episode yet, but on our family pilgrimage this past summer, she definitely popped up in a couple key different places, so it was kind of cool. We also have October 2nd, the Feast of the Guardian Angels. And man, I don't know about you, but I have been feeling some serious spiritual warfare going on recently. In the world, in my life, in the lives of my loved ones, like everything's been ratcheted up a notch. Like the battle is getting more intense. Can you feel it? Can you feel that spiritual battle just seems to have gone up a level? Because I sense it. I think it's definitely there. And so if you don't already have a devotion to your guardian angel, there's no better time than today to reach out and start praying to your guardian angel. And there's lots of resources online where you can find some prayers to your guardian angel, that kind of thing. The only thing that I'm going to interject into here is don't try to name your guardian angel. God has given your guardian angel a name. You don't know what it is. All you have to do is say, guardian angel, blah, 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 blah. And that's good enough. So I can't remember why you're not supposed to try to name your guardian angel, but I read somewhere about it, heard on a podcast or something. So I'm just passing that along. I'm sure if you do a little search online, you can find out more information on that. Now, coming up next week, on October 7th, is the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, also known as Our Lady of Victory. And if you want to find out more about where that feast came from, I was on the radio last year on St. Gabriel Catholic Radio here in Columbus, Ohio, and I talked about the Battle of Lepanto and Our Lady of the Rosary, that whole thing. You can listen to that. You can either search for it at St. Gabriel Radio's website, or if you go to catholictreehouse.com, scroll down, go to the media section, and you click into the more media. From there, there's a listing of all the various different media appearances that I've had, and you can go to last year, and we had the story about the Battle of Lepanto. It's a really fantastic story. I highly recommend you look that up. So if you don't already have a devotion to praying the rosary, this is the month. This is the month of the rosary. And Pope Leo asked us to pray the rosary for peace this month. So please pray your rosary. So I want to start off with an email that I got after last week's episode where I was talking about contraception and the logical fallacies and cognitive biases that people use to defend contraception, even though they call themselves a Catholic. And I got an email from a listener, which is always great to hear from you, and is from Mary, and she wrote this. I appreciated being challenged this morning. Would you be able to address the lack of natural family planning classes, at least for girls, is not taught in Catholic schools? I took the classes after having 3 children in 3 years, and I and my husband were amazed on our ignorance of how my body worked biologically, and that knowledge enabled us both to be able to finally follow the Church's teaching. So first off, Mary, thank you for writing. And thanks for sharing your story. I want to use this as kind of a springboard to a bigger issue that I'd like to address. it got me thinking about a conversation I had recently with the lady who runs the preschool program at our parochial school. And she also teaches the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd program. And she recently been certified at Catechesis of the Good Shepherd level 4, which is like middle school and high school. And she was saying to me that it's like, man, I'm more comfortable teaching the littles, and I'm a little bit nervous taking on the older kids. And as we got to talking, we discussed how if we give God our yes, if we give God our fiat, as Mary did, and we say, okay, God, you know what? You want me to do this. I don't know if I have what it takes, but I feel called to do this. I'm going to go and set out into the deep, and I'm going to go do it. If we resolve to do his will, he will supply the graces we need to get it done. That is a matter of faith on our part. And I think that's my message for this episode. I mean, my fellow saints in progress, the Lord is calling each one of us. The Lord is calling you to go work in his vineyard. I guarantee there is something that's been pressing on your heart that God wants you to go and work in his vineyard and do for him. And there's probably some sort of excuse that you've made about why you're not the right person to go do it. You made some sort of excuse like, I don't have the time, or I don't have the skill, I don't have the background. When I started the Saint Challenge back in 2022, I knew some saints. Well, not personally. I knew some saint stories, I should say. But I wasn't plugged in like I am today into the lives of the saints. Back then, I was not a hagiographer. I didn't really even set out to be a hagiographer, which is a person that studies the lives of the saints, in case you're wondering. But in researching and writing the scripts, I gained not just a tremendous knowledge of these people and their lives, and knowledge of the history of the Catholic Church, but I also gained a tremendous appreciation for the obstacles that many of them overcame in living their faith lives. But one thing became clear amongst all of them, because some of them had no real obstacles. They had supportive parents and stuff like this. Other ones didn't. But one thing that was the common thread amongst all of them. Saints are saints because they had such a reliance upon God's providence. They didn't hedge their bets. They didn't say, well, okay, I'll go do this, but I've got a plan B. What propelled the saints forward to be saints was the fact they stopped holding themselves back and they threw themselves into doing God's work. And I mean, some people might call it reckless abandon. I'm not going to call it reckless abandon because there was nothing reckless about what they did. Some people might look at it and say, that's reckless. But no, it wasn't reckless. It was total abandonment to divine providence, totally abandoning themselves and having faith that God would give them what they needed so long as they were doing what God wanted. They trusted that God would give them the graces they needed to do his will. Now, speaking about the Saint Challenge, it resets on All Saints' Day, which is coming up. So I'm going to make a plug here to buy the book. If you don't already have a copy, please go buy a copy. But everything that's in the book is available online as a daily email for free. You can go to thesaintchallenge.com, which takes you over to Catholic Treehouse's website on the appropriate page, and you can sign up for the daily email. And it has the bio, it's got the challenge, all the resources, everything that's in the book is available for free. I'm not locked it behind some sort of paywall, because if I say that my mission is to make saints, then I put stuff behind a paywall. At best, I'm a grifter. At worst, I'm getting dangerously close to the sin of simony. But my point is, it's not just to sell books or get donations from people, because I have a family to support. my point is that I want to inspire people to be saints. That's why the Saint Challenge, the daily emails, they're free. And if you're not already plugged into the Saint Challenge, if you're not already getting the email, if you don't already have a copy of the book, there are lots of challenges that are designed to work on your faith life. Sure. There are some challenges where it's like, go to Eucharistic adoration, pray the Rosary, pray this litany, that kind of thing. But there are some challenges that are challenges for you to get up and go out and go do. Because some people need inspired, perhaps by the life of a saint, to get up and get out and go do. And that's what I want you to do. Whether or not you're doing the challenges from the Saint Challenge, or you feel a personal call to get involved in teaching natural family planning, or catechesis of the Good Shepherd, or to be a catechist, whether it's at the parish level or you look at your diocesan webpage and find out programs are going on, and you say, you know what, this really appeals to me. Whatever the case may be, I want you to pray and get inspired somehow, some way, to put away the excuses. Because you see, there's a quote from St. Ignatius of Santia, who I'd never heard of before. But when I sat down to do the Saint Challenge, I got introduced to him. His feast day is September 22nd. He was a Capuchin, like Padre Pio. And he had a lot of different roles and responsibilities around the monastery. And what he used to say to motivate his brother friars, I'm going to leave you with today. Paradise is not made for slackers. Let's get to work. So my fellow saints in progress, I'm going to challenge you to find something, to be inspired by a saint, to be inspired by your love of God and love of neighbor, to get involved and go do something. And if you need some of the challenges that are pre-made for you that are in the Saint Challenge, then by all means, please. But whatever it is you decide you are called to go do, understand two things. First off, the devil will put obstacles in front of you and try to get you to doubt yourself. But the other thing you need to always remember is that God will always give you the graces to do his work. That's it for this week, my friends. As always, love God, love your neighbor, stay in a state of sanctifying grace. And this month, pray your rosary for peace. And if possible, do it together with your family. And of course, pray for the conversion of hearts of all those who are fallen away, and especially for those who are living in darkness so dark that they don't even know that they're in the dark. And always remember, my friends, you are saints in progress, so go out there and be a saint.